Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we are lineup building for week 4 of the NFL season on Draftkings. We're going to build a cash game lineup together. Then I have a second version of the first version of the cash game lineup I'm going to build with you guys. Then I'm going to go over some of my favorite GPP game stacks for heading into the week. Not full lineups, but some of the favorite game stacks I have, and then some of the players I like to target from those games. Anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. We're going to hit 2,000 subscribers very soon, so I appreciate all the support on this channel. I'd like to keep growing it. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm at ChrisPennell16. And if you'd like access to any of these spreadsheets I build every single week with rankings, projections, all that stuff, links in the description below for my Patreon. And let's get right into it. So let's start off with the cash game lineup build. Now, there's a lot of guys I like. I like Patrick Mahomes. He's just a little bit too expensive for cash games. I like Jared Goff. I like Phillip Rivers. I love Russell Wilson. He was a very close second for this lineup. But I'm going to start with Daniel Jones at 5,300. Danny Dimes, whatever you want to call him. He's coming off that amazing 39-point outing versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his first career NFL start on the road. Now he gets a very favorable matchup versus the Washington Redskins, who are allowing over 25 DraftKings points per game to the quarterback position, over 271 yards, and over 3 touchdowns per game. This is a great spot for Daniel Jones. He seemed to have a good connection with Evan Engram and Sterling Shepard. And they did lose Saquon Barkley, so I do think this means they're going to have to rely on Daniel Jones' arm even more, because I don't think they're going to want to run the ball with Wayne Gallman all day, because I would rather trust Daniel Jones in receiving options rather than Wayne Gallman, but that's just me. So I do like Daniel Jones a lot. This is a soft matchup for him. He's in his first home game. I think the crowd's going to be amped up. He should be amped up. He looked pretty good. He has some rushing upside as well. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, which I don't expect that to happen every single week. But still, 4 attempts for 28 yards. And when he was on the goal line, he had that read option play, and we'd never see Eli do that. So I do like there's at least a little bit of rushing upside. And he had over 330 passing yards last week. So I do like Daniel Jones heading into the week. He offers us a lot of salary relief at only 5,300. So definitely like rolling with Daniel Jones in cash games, because in cash games, we do not need the high ceilings like Patrick Mahomes. We want the safety nets. We want the safe floors, which still guys with upside. But give me the safe floors. I want the high-end running backs. I want the high-end receivers. And then I like to pay down, usually a tight end, quarterback, sometimes defense, depending. So that's my way I go with cash games. That's how you guys should go with it too. And anyway, let's get into the running back position now. So I think it's pretty easy with running backs this week. I think you have to load up on Christian McCaffrey in cash games. He's pretty much just RB1 this year. He's heavily involved in the passing game. I will say last 2 weeks he hasn't been as heavily involved as he was week 1 versus the Rams, where he had 11 targets. Last week he had four targets, and week 2 he had 6 targets. I mean, it's not like usual Christian McCaffrey levels that we're used to seeing, but it's still pretty darn good for a running back. He's on the field pretty much every single play, which is a rare commodity these days in the NFL. Usually most guys are splitting at least 3/4 of the work, or at least 1/4 of the workload. This guy, it's just him in the backfield. And last week when he was struggling in the first half. He can make big plays. He got a 76-yard touchdown, broke it open. He had 30 fantasy points, and that's just what he does. So even if he's having a bad day, he can always pop one off. He's just a safe play every single week. Kyle Allen looked to lead that offense pretty well last week, so I'm not really too concerned of them not being able to score. The Houston defense is not what it used to be in recent years. So I do like Christian McCaffrey. I think he's going to be like a top 5 highest owned guy in the slate. And in cash games, I think you got to roll with it versus the Houston Texans. So I do like Christian McCaffrey. He's just one of the safest plays week in, week out. And then RB2 is a tough question. So we can either spend down a little bit, or we can pay all the way up, and then we're going to have to pay down one of the two of the wide receiver spots. So there's 2 versions to this cash game lineup. So I'm going to show you guys the first version. So we're going to pay up for Austin Eckler. It's his last game to ball out as the starter, as Melvin Gordon showed up this week. Was it today? Yeah, it was today. So this is going to be his last week as playing as a starter, which is kind of sad because he's been very fun to play. I mean, he's been balling out. 39 fantasy points week 1, 24 points week 2. Last week, not the greatest, but that just shows how good of a floor he's got for us, because he scored 15 points, and that was when he had 36 rushing yards. That's not very good, but he was still got 7 targets through the air, caught all 7 of them for 45 yards. He did not score a touchdown, and he still got you 15 points. You weren't happy with it, but you weren't too mad about it at 7,200. Now, if he does that again at 8K this week, we're not going to be too happy, but I really don't think he's going to have too much of a problem here. Like I said, it's his last game as a starter. He's going to want to ball out. And the Miami Dolphins are allowing over 37 DraftKings points per game to the running back position this season, over 178 rushing yards per game, and over a touchdown. They're not going to be able to play any defense here. Austin Eckler should be able to shine. I love Keenan Allen as well. Phillip Rivers is in play, but definitely like Austin Eckler in his last game as a starter. So definitely love Austin Eckler. And then we're going to go move on to the wide receiver position for right now. And the first guy I'm going to plug in is Keenan Allen. It's no surprise. He was my wide receiver 1 last week. And he's my wide receiver 1 again going up against Miami, who just has no defense whatsoever. He's coming off a 46-point outing versus Houston. He had 17 targets. He had 15 targets week 2, 10 targets week 1. I mean, he's just been insanely good. He scored 2 touchdowns last week. He's leading the league in receiving yards with 134 per game. He's averaging over 9 receptions per game, over 13 targets, averaging 1 touchdown per game. He has a 36% target share in this offense, 87% weighted opportunity share, 46% market share, which all of these numbers lead the league. He has been absolutely insane to start this season, and I don't see him slowing down versus Miami. They are allowing, 38 fantasy points per game to wide receiver position, so I think Mike Williams is in play as well, but Keenan Allen is pretty much the lock of the century heading into the week. And if you're deciding between Austin Eckler or Keenan Allen, I'm going to give the nod to Keenan Allen. Then the second wide receiver spot is Terry McLaurin, F1, Scary Terry, whatever you want to call him. He's just one of my favorite plays heading into the week, and I forget exactly how much he is. He's 4,500. Okay, I didn't forget, I guess. So I will say there is one concern here. He did pop up on the injury report this week, or today actually, with a hamstring injury, which I hate midweek hamstring injuries out of nowhere. That's never a good sign. But as of right now, let's just assume he is going to play and be at full strength. And if he is, I absolutely love him. He has been amazing to start the season. He had 26 points week 1, 17 points week 2, 19 points week 3. And these have not been easy matchups. Week 1 was an easy matchup versus Philly, but 17 points versus Dallas is not too bad, and 19 points for Chicago ain't bad either. He's the most heavily targeted wide receiver in this offense. I mean, it's not a great offense by any means, but still, Case Keenum can get him the ball, and Terry has been great so far this season. The Giants are allowing 56 Draftkings points per game to wide receiver position. 56. And there's not really any other receivers I like on this offense. I'm not saying Terry McLaurin's going to score 56 points, but I do think he can get you 15, 20 points in this matchup, maybe upside for even more if this turns into somewhat of a shootout. So definitely like Terry McLaurin a lot. And actually, I don't love doing correlations in cash games, but by playing Daniel Jones and you think the Giants score a lot, and then hopefully the Redskins are going to have to throw a lot, so that would make a lot of sense in this lineup. So I do like Scary Terry. He's going to be very heavily owned this week, but I think he's definitely in play. And then the next wide receiver position. Okay, I don't love this whatsoever, but when I built this lineup beforehand, he was the guy that fit. So I think I kind of like the second version of this lineup better just because I don't like playing Will Fuller. Well, let's fill in the tight end position first, then we'll go back to it. So at tight end, I think it's really easy this week. I think we're just going to have to play Will Dissly. He is only 3,600 going up against the Arizona Cardinals, and the numbers the Arizona Cardinals are giving up to defenses or tight ends this season is just absolutely awful. Let me pull it up here. I mean, they're giving up over 30 Draftkings points per game to tight ends this season, over 116 yards per game, and averaging over 1.5 touchdowns given up per game to the tight end position this season. Will Dissly is the man here. He scored 22 points week 2 versus Pittsburgh. Week 3, he scored 18 points on a last-minute touchdown versus New Orleans. But still, he saw 5 targets week 2, 7 targets week 3, and he's a part of the game plan. And the Seahawks are going to know to target the tight end position versus the Arizona Cardinals. It's like they don't know that tight ends exist. He's still very cheap. Everyone loves Russell Wilson. Everyone likes Tyler Lockett. People like Chris Carson. So you're going to have to love Will Dissly. I think he's going to be probably the highest on tight end. Him or Evan Ingram are going to be pretty chalky, but I think Will Dissly is a fantastic play this week. He's only 3,600, and he's got the best matchup in the world this week. So I'm going to be plugging in Will Dissly in cash games. Then at the flex, it's not an exciting play, and I'd never really like playing the same running back on the same team as my quarterback. But this is just a price play on volume, and it's a soft matchup versus the Washington Redskins. We're going to plug in Wayne Gallman. It's gross, but there's no Saquon Barkley. He's probably going to get you 15 touches, and it's a very winnable matchup versus the Washington Redskins. They do not offer much resistance in any parts on their defense to the air or on the run. And if you're going to give me 15 touches at 4,600, you are definitely in play. The offense should be able to move a lot better with Daniel Jones at quarterback now, so there is more scoring opportunities. So if he gets you into the end zone, he gets you 60, 70 yards, you're going to be pretty happy. He's going to be pretty chalky, and he does grade out as a pretty good value in my model this week. So he's in play. It doesn't feel great, but I think we can play Wayne Gallman this week. Then at defense, so I'd love to get the Chargers in. Only problem is I don't want to play a 3K something receiver in cash games. So we're going to drop down to the Denver Broncos. Now, I know they have sucked so far this season. They've scored 0 points, 1.0 points. They do not have a sack. They do not have an interception. That's awful. So why do I like them? Well, they're playing at home, which it's very tough to play in Denver if you're an opposing team. Jacksonville does not have the best offense in the world. I know Gardner Minshew is fun and everything, but he's not like he's an elite quarterback by any means. And this game is the weather game this week, so there's going to be 20-mile-per-hour winds. I read gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Now, I know a lot of the weather games get blown out of proportion, but it's just what I can go with. I'm not a meteorologist, so I'm just going with what they tell me. But this sets up well for the Broncos as a nice, cheap defense there. I think they're going to be kind of chalky, too, because people are going to look at the weather, and if it's going to be that windy, it's going to be hard to throw. It's going to be hard to kick. I think the Broncos defense can get by. If they get you 5 points, you're going to be kind of happy at 2,900, and they're going to allow us to spend up at another position. So I don't mind plugging the Broncos defense in, but I would prefer to get the Chargers. As you can see, this leaves us with 4,700 left. And so it's like, who am I really going to play 4,700? Curtis Samuel, maybe. Courtland Sutton, not really. Will Fuller, though, yeah, there's upside there. I mean, that's why the thing, I kind of like the second version of this lineup better, which you guys will see soon. But let's say we plug in Will Fuller. I think this game's got somewhat sneaky shootout potential. And he hasn't been terrible this season. 8 points week 1, 8 points week 2. 10 points week 3. He's getting targeted. He had 7 targets the past 2 weeks. If he catches a long bomb, you're going to be happy. I mean, the touchdowns are going to be coming for him. He scored in bunches with Deshaun Watson whenever they played together. So it's coming. It's a winnable matchup versus Carolina. They're going to be worried about DeAndre Hopkins, so I think Will Fuller's going to see some soft coverage, might get loose, pan the defense, catch a bomb, get a touchdown. I don't hate it. So this is version 1, and I actually kind of like version 2 better. So let's talk about version 2. We're going to get rid of Eckler, and we're going to get rid of Fuller. I think off the top of my head, I think so. So we're going to remove those 2 guys, and then we're going to plug in Marlon Mack as our RB2. And I actually really like Marlon Mack. I believe he was on one of my core plays video, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's definitely in my first look video. I like Marlon Mack quite a bit. If you guys didn't know, he's actually averaging the most rushing attempts per game this season. I know it's only 3 weeks, but still, if you're going to see that kind of volume versus an Oakland run defense, which he can definitely win this matchup. According to PFF, the Indianapolis run blocking has the highest offensive line versus defensive line advantage of the week. So you're going to be able to pave open holes for him. He's going to see the volume. It's a winnable matchup versus Oakland. They should have a lead in this game, so you're not going to worry about him getting taken out really too much for receiving downs. But he still has 3 targets the past 2 weeks. Definitely like Marlon Mack. He should be able to find himself into the end zone, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has one of those 20 attempts, 100-yard games with a touchdown or 2. So definitely like Marlon Mack, and I do think he's a pretty safe play. And he is $1,900 cheaper than Austin Eckler, so I actually like that a lot. And we get one of my favorite wide receivers of the weekend in Cooper Kupp. I love Cooper Kupp this week, guys. He's going up against MJ Stewart in the slot, and that is a very winnable matchup for Cooper Kupp. The guy's a really good receiver. He has double-digit points each week, 11 points week 1, 20 points week 2, 36 points week 3. He seems to always be open. He's really good at creating separation. He's Jared Goff's guy. He always looks to him. They're buds. I know that doesn't have any analytical approach to it, but sometimes it goes deeper than the numbers. They have a great connection together, so he's always looking towards Cooper Kupp. He knows how to get open. He runs great routes. He's going up against MJ Stewart. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers just got shredded by the New York Giants. I love Cooper Kupp. Jared Goff plays better at home, so it makes a ton of sense to me. I love getting Cooper Kupp in my lineup this week, and I actually kind of like this lineup a lot better. So you got Daniel Jones, Christian McCaffrey, Marlon Mack, Keenan Allen. Then you don't have that running back wide receiver stack. So Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Cooper Kupp, Will Dissly, Wayne Gallman, and then the Broncos defense, and that leaves you 100 left, and I think that's a pretty solid lineup. So that's going to be it for the cash game builds. Let's get into some of my favorite GPP things, and I love the New York Giants-Washington Redskins game. Everyone's pretty cheap in there, and you can load them up and still fit in guys like Keenan Allen or Christian McCaffrey just to round it out. So let's say you go with Daniel Jones, and you fire him up with Sterling Shepard. Then you run it back with Terry McLaurin. He's just way too cheap this week. He'd be more expensive if they didn't play the Monday night game. Say you want to throw in Evan Ingram. And that's very doable. If you want to throw in Wayne Gallman too, you can. I don't really love the correlation there, but still, at least leaves you with 5,700 salary left. You're going to throw in a defense. That's going to bump it up even more. You can fit in a lot of good pieces here, and I really like this game stack. Daniel Jones is too cheap. Sterling Shepard, I wouldn't say he's too cheap, but 5,800 is not too bad. Doesn't break the bank. He had a good connection with Daniel Jones last week, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin's way too cheap. Evan Ingram, we know his insane upside. He had a good connection with Daniel Jones last week. He's going to be heavily targeted. No Saquon Barkley. Definitely like this game stack. I mean, you could use the Case Keenum and Terry McLaurin match stack, but I'm going to rather trust Daniel Jones. I think the Seahawks-Cardinals game can definitely be a high-scoring affair. I mean, a lot of people love Russell Wilson. I do too. You can pair him up with Tyler Lockett, Will Dissly. He's just way too cheap this week. And then you can run it back with the Arizona stack with Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk, who are both going to be heavily targeted as they have been throughout the whole season. They're pretty cheap. And then if you want to add in David Johnson too, who's also involved in the passing game, you can just absolutely full stack this game. And you can also just make it where it's Kyler Murray instead of Russell Wilson because he's going to be lower owned. I think they have somewhat similar upside. So I think this is very viable too. They're not totally cheap, but I think this game does have, not blowout potential, just shootout potential. So I do like this game. And it's the 4 o'clock game, so you got the late hammer, which everyone loves. And then, like I said, I think the Houston Texans and Carolina Panthers game could be a little bit sneaky this week. Deshaun Watson, pair him up with Hopkins. And you can pair him up with Fuller. And then you can use Greg Olsen at tight end. I know Texans have been pretty tough on tight ends so far this season, but they've played no tight ends this season. Last year they really struggled with the tight end position, so I do think Greg Olsen is a fine play this week. You can also use DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. Obviously, you'd want to get Christian McCaffrey in because he's involved through the air and on the ground, so he's really game script proof. So I don't mind that. 4,600 left. You got to throw in a defense. There's enough salary to get this done. And then I like the Jared Goff with Cooper Kupp combo. And then you could always run that back with Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. And you can also use any of his receivers as well, Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. I think that's doable. I really love the Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp combo. Run it back with, say, Mike Evans. But it is a tough matchup, but he's coming off that great game. I do think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to throw to stay in this game. So one of those receivers makes sense. I don't really like O.J. Howard. I'm not in love with Chris Godwin this week, but I do think they're in play for GBP stacks. And then outside of that, there's probably a game I'm missing. Phillip Rivers to Keenan Allen works out too. People might like the Matt Ryan to Julio Jones stack, but I don't know. Tennessee's just, they don't have a terrible defense. They don't have the crazy good defense, but, I almost forgot. Obviously the Chiefs Lions game. That can definitely hit the over. It's like at 53.5, but I think points are going to be scored here. The Chiefs always have potential of scoring over 40 points. Pair him up with Tyreek Hill 2.0 and Mecole Hardman. Only 5,100. You can use Demarcus Robinson. You can use Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones. They're all viable in this game. You can use Kerryon Johnson, who got a really heavy workload coming into the week. Last week he had, over 20 touches exactly? I don't remember the time. Yeah, 20 rushing attempts. Only 36 yards, which is awful. Was not really involved through the air. Hopefully they get him more involved through the air, but it's a really soft matchup. They just gave up 3 touchdowns to Mark Ingram, over 100 yards. So I do like Kerryon Johnson this week. I love the Chiefs Lions game. It's just that Patrick Mahomes is so expensive. So maybe if you want to use Matthew Stafford and save some salary, say you use Matthew Stafford, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, running back with Mecole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson, or even get Travis Kelce in there, who's obviously always a monster. You can definitely do that. There's enough salary relief to get it done this week. So I really think that's going to be it for GBPs. I'm probably missing something off the top of my head, but this video is mainly just for cash game building, but I think that's pretty much it. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Remember to leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. I wish you guys the best of luck. And I was going to say it's a showdown slate, but I think I'm going to post this after the showdown, after the game tonight. So I hope you guys did very well if you're watching this after the game, and I'll see you guys in the next video.